Hi, my name is Arturo Farrell. I'm the founder and artistic director of the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra and the Afro-Latin Jazz Lions, and I'm welcoming you to another edition of La Plaza at ALJA Digital Village. Today's topic is Roots and Routes, R-O-O-T-S and R-O-U-T-S, of jazz in Amsterdam, presented in collaboration with the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. Today, we go to Amsterdam and we'll feature three different bands, each with a different approach to music. One is called SMANDEM, Benjamin Herman Trio featuring Oscar Jan Hoogland and Fuensanta Mendes Ensemble Grande. There will be a panel after these performances. You'll be able to hear from the musicians themselves about their music making process. We thank Bimhuis, which is a beautiful venue that I've had the privilege to play in Amsterdam, and of course the National Jazz Museum of Harlem, headed by the gracious Tracy Hyder-Suffer. So please enjoy Roots and Routes Jazz Amsterdam.
Hello everyone, I'm Tamar.
And I'm Isla, and we are New Amsterdam Jazz.
This morning we took the train from Amsterdam to Harlem. We founded New Amsterdam Jazz with the mission to amplify the sound of the Dutch jazz scene and connect it to scenes worldwide. And we're so happy to be partnering up with the National Jazz Museum in Harlem to showcase the various roots and roots of the Amsterdam jazz scene and celebrate the long-standing historical and musical connection that Old and New Amsterdam, Harlem and Haarlem share.
From Amsterdam to Harlem will be streamed all the way from the world-renowned Bimhuis, where all the greats have played, such as Archie Shepp, Art Blakey, Chet Baker and Betty Carter, but also our own Han Benning, John Engels, Ak van Rooyen, Rita Reis, you name it. We'll start off the night with Fuensanta Mendes Ensemble Grande that features 10 musicians coming from all over the world and making their route to Amsterdam, from Denmark to Portugal to South Korea to Mexico. Next off, we have Bouwman Herman Trio with Oscar Jan Hoogland, who will pay tribute to Dutch composer and pianist Misha Mengelberg. To end the night, we have young band SMANDEM, who recently recorded a record and released it, and will showcase the young urban fresh sound of Amsterdam.
We're sending you love from Haarlem to Harlem.
And we hope you enjoy the roots and roots of the Amsterdam jazz scene.
Colores febriles que habitaron mis sienes, no los sueños infantiles de la rabia más hermosa.
Una tuve griega.
grises muertas tristes deslavaron mis olores y un goteo interminable cae sobre la frente de un ave. A los pájaros insomnes ya les ha llegado el tiempo. No será
We're going to continue with a song called Perspectiva, which is very much about what this evening is about, music and social justice. I'll leave it to you, but it's mainly about how art can be a tool for making us freer in our own minds, therefore not having to oppress someone else in order to feel powerful. So in a sense, also a tool of social change, to make choices on how to treat other people. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
No era libre en su cabeza, traía infectada la falta de perspectiva. Y como para sentir que esto sí lo decidía, clavó su tacón en una sien ajena. ¿Cómo no va a importar el arte
exhibiste una misma cosa con 1000 caras, predicando que se puede escoger la forma en que existimos en el mundo. Mi vida no fue lo que hice, fue como lo sentí. Mi vida no fue lo que tuve. Y entre tantas perspectivas, la persona se hizo libre. Aprendí a ensamblar la propia. Fue en sí misma empoderada. Y al paso de las circunstancias vivió como decidió, usando los ojos artistas. No era libre en su cabeza, traía infectada la falta de perspectiva. Y como para sentir que esto sí lo decidía, clavó su tacón en una sierra.
artistas a trabajar,
artistas
la gente se está muriendo. Artistas a trabajar, la gente se está muriendo.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bimhuis TV, and welcome to the beautiful Bimhuis. It's just an honor to sit here with these super hyper talented musicians. First of all, Rafael, Devante, Sinay of the band SMANDEM, and of course the wonderful Fuensanta Mendes, who you've just heard with her Grande Ensemble. Ensemble Grande. I'm very sorry. We're going to talk a little bit about the roots and the routes of Amsterdam jazz or Dutch jazz versus, your influences from all over the world. But especially this panel is, it's an important topic to discuss is social justice. But before that, Fuensanta, did you enjoy your set?
So much. I'm still cooling down, to be honest.
Is it good to play live again?
My God, especially with these people.
I can imagine. And Raf, how about you? Did soundcheck go well?
Soundcheck went perfect.
Yeah?
I love this place. Yeah, Bimhuis is always a very warm place for me.
So are you looking forward to your set tonight?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yes.
Great. So, guys, I mean, there's so much to talk about. But first, let's talk about Amsterdam. Amsterdam for me and for a lot of people around the world, but also here in Holland. I mean, Amsterdam has this sense of freedom. It's very the characteristic thing about Amsterdam. It's its cosmopolitan character and it's free character. Fuen, how does that resonate in your music?
Well, first of all, I would say I've been lucky to meet all these people, like the people in my band and many others that I could not fit on stage, of course. That come from all over the world, and this has of course also led me to know music and culture that I would not normally be in close contact with. I say normally as if it is not normal that I'm here, but I think I have found a lot of roots in different places that are not only Mexico, and a lot of that is because I am so close to people who are from all over the world, and then it turns out that many of these fibers that feel like folkloric or as original culture, maybe they have different nuances and different presentation cards, say, but they're all connected to a similar thing. And this is kind of the pool that we drink from, I think. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. I'm still cooling down.
I know.
I try not to get too esoterical.
No, it's great. It's
okay.
Great. Raf, how about you? I mean, you guys you just put out a record, an EP, your first EP with SMANDEM, your band. Mm-hmm. What I hear is that real Amsterdam sound, that sense of freedom in your music.
Thank you. It's crazy that you think there's an Amsterdam sound. I'm very happy to hear that. That's something that we strive for. Being in Amsterdam is actually perfect for me. It feels like what you just said, cosmopolitan city, and me being from half Moluccan home and half Bolivian home. I need that multicultural energy, and here I find it everywhere. I live in Belmer. There are numerous ethnicities going on there. You can eat whatever you want from wherever you want. And if you go to the city, you can shop from different kind of creatives from different ethnicities. And it's just all here. And I think for an artist that creates some more liberty to choose what you're going to take and choose what you're going to be inspired by.
Right. Like you said, your ethnicity is very diverse. Fuen, you're from Veracruz in Mexico,
right.
But you have a band from all over the world also.
Yeah.
How does that influence your? Is that a very conscious choice to have this globalism represented in your music?
Actually, I would say it's a conscious choice, but it's not a choice on purpose. Like, it's conscious because I'm aware of that happening, but these are just the people I was drawn to artistically and personally, and we are very close friends, and we share, I think, a lot of values in music and aesthetics in general, and this was just natural for me. I didn't think, oh, I don't have anyone from Brazil, let me get someone in here. That's just how it happened. Yeah.
And you, Raf?
Oh, you mean the band members?
Yeah. I mean, you guys are friends, I suppose.
Yeah, super good friends. For me, it was something very unique. I went to conservatory, and well, actually in conservatory, people of color are very underrepresented. So what are the odds that I meet two other guys that have the same background as me? And yeah, I feel very lucky and privileged that I can share with those guys this culture thing, that we have the same history, so to speak, and those background things, and keep it alive in between us, but in a new form. Yeah, it's really super nice. And also shout out to David, who's not half Moluccan, but now he is a little.
All right, David, you know. You just touched base on a subject, and you did as well during your set, social justice. I mean, there are lots of global social justice issues that have come to the forefront during this pandemic. For example, you know, like Black Lives Matter movements and a whole bunch of other movements. But when you touched on a subject that's very close to your heart, which is violence against women in Mexico. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, what happens is that it's outrageous.
Of course.
And at the same time, now there is a very strong movement to stand against this outrageous violence. And I think, so now there is also a lot more, I'm back with everyone. Okay. There is an outrageous increasing of violence all the time right now in Mexico. It has been always a place with sexism problems like most of the world. But then also in recent years it became more violent, and it has been really evident that the current power structure in there does not protect women, and right now the death rate of people also who are murdered from someone in their households, like as domestic violence, is really high, and there is a very high rate of impunity as well. Most women don't get a result when they denounce what happened to them, and is really corrupt. So in this sense, there's also a lot of young women and older now gathering in eye-opening that we have to kind of take care of each other, and that this is not acceptable. And even things I think maybe we saw as normal 5 years ago are really being questioned right now, but there's still a lot to go.
Right. Does that influence your artistic process? Does that rage and that you know, that responsibility you feel to speak out against these things, does that come back into your way of composing music?
I'm not sure if in the way of composing music, but for sure in my artistic endeavor, or in my musical endeavor, I have felt many times that in this industry that is still very much male-dominated, I felt like it was almost my responsibility to do my best to be present whenever there was an opportunity for me to be present. Like, say, there's this nice thing that you could do, and then if I don't do it, I have felt sometimes, oh no, go, there's not enough women there. And sometimes in that sense, I do things that it doesn't feel like it's only for me. It's more like, I just feel like there should be some women around there doing it. So it pushes me also to to make some things happen. And I think I also really embrace this. I don't want to say vulnerability because that's a little bit cliche, as if women were more vulnerable than men, and that's exactly the problem. Like, there's also not enough space for men to be vulnerable in the patriarchal structure, but kind of this whole feeling of not wanting to necessarily fit in a medium that has not been welcoming for women, also in a way, once I acknowledge it, gives me a lot of space to just go and do my own thing, because anyway, I'm not going to fit in that particular stereotype that was expected from the musician. You understand what I mean?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very much. How do you think about these issues, Raf? Do you relate?
Yeah, I think it's very clear that in our field of work, also it's a pretty male-dominant field of work, so to speak, right? We, on our EP, had featured 2 female artists, and that was our way maybe of dealing with this. But we're still on our journey to see how we can deal more with these problems. So I'm very happy to hear that you are so active with it.
Yeah,
it's beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. Absolutely, absolutely. How do social justice issues resonate with you guys? I mean, you're young, you're multicultural, you're diverse, you live in Amsterdam, you're a musician.
Yeah. As just a person of this generation, you're always aware of what is happening in the world. And for example, you said something about Black Lives Matter, right? When that happened, it really was like some type of crossroads, like it either goes this way or that way. And all this collective consciousness about what is right and what way we have to go is really motivating for us as well to embrace more and more of our own background instead of trying to adapt to an ideal image of what people expect from you. And if you don't look like that image, then they are very prejudiced. And in our music, we don't write lyrics, so we cannot really refer to that right now. But what we do is we just take things from music that is not Western or complex European harmonies or whatever, but we take maybe simpler stuff that we felt that was always looked down upon, but we take it serious and we embrace it. It's just part of who we are.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. I mean, you know, I remember that we were talking beforehand on Zoom, and we had quite a conversation about this. I mean, this conversation is only 30 minutes, but we spoke for almost 2 hours, maybe, about all these issues. And one of the things that I wanted to touch base on is a quote from you, Fuensanta, if you permit me to. You mentioned at a certain point, you said like we need to start thinking in terms of decolonizing music. Do you remember that?
Yeah, this was because Rafael was explaining precisely this, of kind of uplifting or maybe validating somehow some forms of musical expression that are not necessarily Caucasian European, right? Like Western
jazz,
classical
maybe?
music. Well, but I mean, jazz is a strange animal in this sense, is it
Yes.
not? So this kind of thing of, he talked about embracing, okay, this is bachata, okay, this has, so then it also, because you talked about it not being intellectual and saying it's equally valid, right?
I talked about this, about one of the examples that we had was playing it in a class, something that sounds fairly simple, but it's just part of our generation. So also part of who we are, like trap, drill, reggaeton or bachata, and then people would not really know how to react on it. And it was always awkward. And so we could either choose to, okay, be ashamed of this moment and not listen to that again, or go the other way and embrace it, and fully embrace it, and also show other people the beautiful sides of it that they don't know, and learn them how to react to trap or drill or whatever.
This, sorry.
No,
Can
please, please, please.
This makes me think of something Gabriel was saying the other day. Gabriel, who sang with me now in my band, that about music not having to have a development. And actually, it's really interesting because I think Western music, Western classical music, that's even a funny term, but kind of has a lot of its value also in development, and it's beautiful and incredible. And there's so many other ways of making music that actually don't need to be developing a thing, that they are about staying in a world like a lot of West African music or most kind of folkloric. So that made me think that maybe that's one thing that makes us feel like, oh, can we stay there forever if we have this idea of...
Maybe because they forgot that those music or old folkloric music wasn't made to, like you have a record and it has a beautiful development. It's almost like a movie, like Hollywood. And I think maybe before in ancient times, people just made music because they expressed how they were feeling while living on this planet at the place and time they were living. And then they don't need that Hollywood kind of thing.
It's funny you said, I mean, you mentioned music styles that influence you guys. I mean, you know, you just mentioned trap, reggaeton, bachata. You mentioned your folkloric roots. And you also said, like, you know, jazz is actually a very weird organism, or, you know, Black American music. And there's another quote from you, Fuensanta. You said, like, all right, so is Black American music, or jazz, or how you want to call it, I prefer to call it Black American music, is that the soup or one of the ingredients of your music?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what I think. I said that it was a soup, not an ingredient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But is Black American music then your soup, really?
It's part of my soup.
Yeah.
It's the soup inside my soup.
Tell me about it.
What? I don't know exactly what to say.
I mean, how are you inspired by I mean, what makes it Black American music then, your soup? Do you think?
I mean, I have definitely fed and from this music since I was really young, and still do, amongst others, but it has been a very important part of my life to play jazz and all kind of things around its spectrum. In the end, it's a word that doesn't have rough edges, and I think that's okay, that it doesn't make sense to try to put rough edges around it. But I also then developed as an improviser, so even when I write songs that are like pop songs, or, well, in that sense, folkloric music is also very improvised. Like where I come from, Veracruz, the folkloric music is son jarocho. And that also has no fixed melodies, no fixed lengths necessarily, in the sense of improvising over a form all the time. And that has really shaped me in my way of approaching music. And I think possibly jazz has more to do with the way of approaching music than a specific aesthetic. I mean, I might be wrong. I don't think there's right or wrong. I'm sure some people might disagree, and that's totally fair. I mean, but this is how I experience my own playing through jazz music.
Right. Is it your soup as well, Rafael?
I'm a bit confused. What does the soup say? Can you define soup? What is the ingredient?
I don't know. I mean, is jazz or Black American music somewhere the soup that you guys make in your music, or is it just one of the ingredients that you add to the process of making music to make what you make, to make your art?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure if I can define the right answer to it for all of us. But if I have to answer now, maybe it's an ingredient, and we try to make a different soup. And that soup reflects how we see the world, and the jazz ingredient is one of the ingredients.
I would like to clarify something.
Oh, tell me, friend.
For me, the reason why I say it's a soup and not an ingredient, it's because it's not like jazz is this solid thing that's made of only itself. Jazz is in itself a form of syncretism that is so full of different things that doesn't, like, it also feeds itself from previous things, future things, I mean, and all sorts of geographical influences. So when I say it's a soup, I mean that it's full of different ingredients already.
I agree with that. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, just to get to the soup quote. Yeah.
We touched on a whole bunch of subjects, on social justice, on your music. I mean, if there were like two artists or one artist that has really inspired you, and it doesn't need to be a musician, it could be from literature or from whatever, who would that be, Rafael?
I think I need some.
Question.
I think I need some time to answer that. Do you have your answer already?
Hey, it's so hard to choose one.
Yeah.
This is I know it's unfair, but I'm getting my signals that we only have 4 minutes left.
I can talk about someone.
Tell me.
Especially for this band, I have really been influenced by Totola Momposina. She's a Colombian singer. And that's also, I think, a nice thing to bring up right now. Because
Absolutely.
Colombia is going through a crazy moment in which their people are fighting really hard to get their rights being heard, and they're being really oppressed. So I would like to dedicate this moment to the Colombian people and Totola Momposina, who has blessed me since I was a young girl. Yeah.
And how about you, Raf?
I think I have to say Kanye West.
Tell me.
Just when I look at all his work, at this discography, is that how you say it? I think he's just a complete artist. His vision is so strong. He does whatever he wants, like making clothing, making movies, short movies, being an art director. This shows me that his inspiration goes further than only the marketing of his music. It's really an expression of his inspiration and his skill and his gift, and the way he switches from time to time from style. Like he has old school records, but he has also R&B, love ballad records, to completely progressive. I don't know how you call it, and they're all in their own way masterpieces, and that's something that's very inspirational for me. I would like to have that vision and creativity to just paint whatever you want to paint.
I think that's a beautiful ending, a beautiful quote to end with. Rafael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much good luck with your set later tonight. Fuensanta, muchas gracias. Thank you very much for your activism, for your wise words, and for your music. And I'm pretty sure we're going to hear much more about you two soon. Thank you.
Bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a song written for Peter Brodsman, one of Germany's most ferocious tenor saxophone players and clarinet players. And Misha played with him a lot, and he could never play the music the way Misha intended it, because he would always freak out straight away. So Misha decided to write a song for him which has 2 notes. And Misha, I spoke to Misha when he was alive about this song. He said, Peter never managed to play it right. It was too difficult for him. 2 notes. This is called Brodziman. Thank you very much.
All right, viewers. Well, that was something. Misha Mengelberg, played by Benjamin Herman Trio, featuring Oscar de Jong. Jan, I'm sorry. What a beautiful set and what a beautiful night. I'm very happy that you guys are still looking, and we're going to have a very good conversation on Amsterdam. And there he is, Benjamin.
Hello!
Fresh from stage.
Nice to hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having fun.
Yes. All right, I'll give you some time just to acclimatize.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Good.
So, we had a previous conversation with your colleagues, Fuen Santa, where you played a beautiful set as one of the drummers, and obviously Benjamin just came straight running from stage. We spoke about a lot of, Amsterdam, the Dutch music scene, but also a lot of social justice issues. But I actually want to touch base with you guys on that route to Amsterdam or to Holland, mostly. And Amsterdam or the Dutch music scene or the Dutch jazz scene, as you call it, embraces a sort of freedom, sort of cosmopolitan character, which we kind of characterized in the previous talk. Sinay, you have a very special story about Amsterdam, and coming from Korea to Amsterdam, actually. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I think a lot of, or a small portion of people in the Netherlands saw little documentary that we were part of. And very long story for like 13 years, but short. I started playing drums in church. I saw first time the drummer playing in church. So there was...
This was in Korea?
Yeah, that was in Korea. So I was 12 years old, and I saw the drummer playing in front, in the church, and I fell in love once. So I couldn't hear anything else, and then I could hear only drum sound. So that was my hook, and then since then, I tried to make my parents understand that I wanted to play drums for 5 years, and it took some years to start to play drums, of course. And I went to drum academy in the beginning, which there was a metal drummer who plays as a hobby, and he was like, "Hey, welcome. Okay, you're gonna play on a tire." Poor Will. So I was practicing and learning some skills for 1 hour, and then okay, this is my thing. I love it. I'm gonna stay here for 4 hours, and then I played the same thing over and over for 4 hours, and that was my first day playing drums. And then since then, I wanted to apply for conservatory in Korea, in pop department, and then I got in after playing 1 year of preparation. And after that, I wanted to learn jazz because I was wondering about freedom on drums, basically, because I was playing mostly pop music, which nothing wrong with that, but I could only play something I only practiced. So with the metronome from 60, 62, 64, 66, until wherever you want to go for one lick. And then you have to kind of use it because you practice so many hours. So, and then I was just sick of it, and I thought I have to find something else. And then I saw on YouTube Brian Blade playing with Joshua Redman. I thought this is what I want to do. So I quit conservatory. And then I was asking around people like, "Hey, I want to be like that, be like him. Where can I go?" And they said that you have to learn jazz, how to play jazz. So I quit the school after 1 year, and I was wondering about who can teach me jazz. And I met a teacher who can teach me. So after like 6 months to 1 year playing jazz, I was in love again with the jazz. So okay, so this is my way. So I'm gonna look for jazz school. And then back then, so 10 years ago, there was no jazz school in Korea. Only one exists. So I tried to look outside of Korea, and then of course, Conservatory van Amsterdam was one of the best school that I could find. That was my journey.
Wow. So you kind of broke free from your Korean references to come to Amsterdam. I mean, did you know anything about Amsterdam before coming here?
To be honest, no, nothing. I didn't speak English at all. So I had to memorize all the questions that they're gonna ask, teachers gonna ask me. So I was like all night just memorizing what they're gonna ask, possibly. And my mom was teaching from newspaper. She was like looking for English sentences, and she handed in, you know, with a paper that she wrote in English. So like Konglish, we say, like how you pronounce English in Korean. So she wrote me, and then she gave it to me. So I didn't know anything. Basically.
It's an amazing story that you faked your English. If they would have asked something different, you would have like,
yeah, exactly. I would say yes, probably.
So how did Amsterdam influence you? I mean, there's a clear story of breaking away and then coming to Amsterdam, to this free place. How did that influence your drumming?
A lot. When I came here, of course, first of all, I didn't search anything about Netherlands in general. So I didn't know about the language, the culture, or people, or, you know, like you could research it before. But for me, there was only one reason that I wanted to come, was for jazz. So I was a stupid and very simple young girl, just decided to come here only for that. So it was really shocking. On the first day, came into school, like cheek kisses and just to say hi to teachers. You know, it was all shocking for me, actually. And I thought, okay, if I stay as I am right now, I'm not gonna be able to learn anything, because I'm just shocked for every second thing that I see. From every second thing that I see, I have to somehow change. But how do I change? First of all, I don't understand anything. So I was recording when we were hanging with the friends, or recording all the classes that I was in. So that's how I learned English. Of course, I didn't understand at the moment, but I brought it back home where I lived, and I was practicing English and tried to find what that meant with my friend who spoke a little better than me. And yeah, just it was a shocking every day, like didn't understand. I was confused. I was very tired after 2 classes, and then I was crashed at home, and next day starting the same thing. And I realized this is not what I have to do, and then I was looking for role models, how I want to become, like who I like to be with and who I like to become in this country. So I met a lot of people from all over the world, of course, and there were really a lot of people who helped me to develop as I am right now. So yeah, all kinds of small level. For me, it was a big step. But if I think now, of course, it was just nothing that I just faced, you know, like what it was. And then, because I was also young, I was brave, I guess. Yeah.
Wow,
And yeah.
That's an incredible story. I mean, you know, just finding your own path, coming to Amsterdam, doing something new. I mean, it's kind of Mengelberg-ish, right, Benjamin?
Well, finding your own path certainly is, but going abroad and going somewhere you don't speak language, you don't know anybody, and I don't know, it must be very strange. But that's the fun thing about jazz music, is that you can improvise. We learn to improvise, and once you're handy in that, you know, you can work yourself out of all kinds of situations, and everybody will like you, which is good fun, you know. That's what, if you talk about Mengelberg,
well, you know, I mean,
we got to.
Well, you know, it's breaking away. I mean, Mengelberg broke away from the American jazz tradition, so to speak. You know, incorporating elements of, like, you know, very flinty improvisation and humor and stuff like that. I mean, is he one of the founders of this Dutch jazz style? Maybe is there something like that?
Well, there is. I mean, he was definitely someone who decided to do it differently. I mean, there were a lot of, there still are a lot of great players in Holland, you know, straight ahead players. And when he was a young man in the 50s, there were a lot of great players too. Great piano players like Rob Matna and well, there's loads of too many to mention. And Misha just decided, well, this is not going to work for me because I'm from a family in the southern part of Amsterdam, and his uncle was a conductor. His father was a conductor. His uncle was a composer, and they all came from classical backgrounds and stuff. So he had a lot of musical knowledge, but his greatest passion was Thelonious Monk. And when he'd been studying, I think, a couple of records, 2 records, the red one and the blue one, he always said, you know, the first Blue Note Thelonious Monk albums, he'd done that, and then he decided to move on and make his own, start his own group and develop his own style. A very interesting piano player. I mean, people who are more into the improv scene, they will know him, and people in New York will as well. In the downtown scene, he recorded with Joey Barron, and for John Zorn's label as well, and done lots of collaborations with all kinds of people in the 70s and in the 60s.
So what made would you say that, you know, his way of improvising and his approach to, well, the American tradition, like kind of getting loose of it, like what Willem Breuker did, and you know, Misha Mengelberg, Han Benning. Is that the foundation to that color, you think?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. I mean, because it was something that was happening all over Europe. People were trying to figure out their identity, but not only in Europe. It was also in Asia. You know, I don't know too much about the Korean history, but I know in Japan, you know, there was a whole movement as well. Everybody was freeing themselves and using their own backgrounds and trying different stuff. But Misha Mengelberg and Han Benning and Willem Breuker were definitely the best in Holland doing that. They were like, if you want a reference, you know, you got to find them, and they'll be playing. There's all kinds of stuff they will be playing with, like Eric Dolphy. You know, he'd come to Holland, and then they back Eric Dolphy or all kinds of other kind of people. It was an interesting time, and Misha and Han and Willem Breuker, they deliberately started doing different stuff to irritate other musicians as well. You know, straight ahead players. They would have Piet Noordijk was one of Holland's most incredible alto players, a real natural player, incredible player, and you know, he couldn't stand being in that quartet at some because they were throwing things at him during his solos. Han take a bag of peas, dried peas, and start throwing them at Pete to get him to play something else. So they were also into annoying other musicians and just shaking things about, you know, which I thought was very interesting.
How did that influence your playing and your characteristic sound? I mean, every time when I see you play, there's some joy on stage. You know, I mean, you walk around and you feel at home, and it's not like you're stuck to one thing and just concentrating or whatever. It's more.
Yeah, well, there's something which I realized at a certain moment being on stage as a saxophone player. You can walk around. And if we watch Sonny Rollins playing, you know, he's always trying out different places on the stage, seeing what it sounds like over there. What is it? You can connect with the drummer if I stand there. You know. And sometimes I used to get pretty, when I was young, you know, get so nervous that you just
freeze up.
Yeah, you freeze and you stand there on the stage, and then you finish with your solo and you're standing like, oh, wow. What are these people looking at me? But I tell also young musicians, you know, just explore the room.
Yeah.
Explore the room.
So, I mean, obviously, you know, Ben, I mean, you're one of the forefront members of this Dutch jazz scene of you know, the names in Holland. I mean, you know, you play Mengelberg, you know a lot about the Dutch jazz history. I mean, what excites you about the Dutch jazz scene today?
Well, some me, in the first place. I mean,
Obviously.
she's in every band that is. She's connecting with everybody
Yeah.
at the moment.
I agree.
And yeah, there's so many great young players. It's difficult to single out people, you know. But I like to think, you know, what Dizzy Gillespie said in his book "To Be or Not to Bop." You know, the future of jazz is mixing styles, and it's such a wonderful world we live in now with the internet, and it's everybody connects and everybody can be influenced by anything. And if you open your eyes as a musician, there's so much you can connect to. And you can also spend your whole life playing bebop, which is great and it's good fun. That's the stuff I practice at home as well. But it's also nice to connect with someone from Korea, and see what she has to offer for the stuff that you're practicing. And if we talk about Amsterdam, that's also nice about the city of Amsterdam. Is that it attracts a lot of people. They used to come here to smoke, you know. You can smoke all over the world now, apparently. But people would come here and just really enjoy the fact that everyone was relaxed and at ease. And there were lots of bars you could play at and lots of gigs all over the place. So, you know, Amsterdam is an interesting place as far as that is concerned. I just hope some me's not going to leave too soon, because a lot of people stay here for a while and then they move on to different places. Some go to the States, some of them go back to their own country, some of them move on to a different scene.
Right. I mean, speaking about the States, New York. I mean, you've lived in New York for a short while, right?
Well, I studied at the Manhattan School of Music. Yeah.
Right.
But I couldn't. I was there for a half year, and I was just. It's such a difficult city to live in as a musician.
Yeah.
It's really. I figured.
Didn't you get me working with New York musicians? The reason why they go to New York is just to get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
And was that the case with you guys?
I got my ass. It took like 5 years to heal when I came back. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of people from Holland who've managed to stay there for a while, like Ben van Gelder, incredible alto player. He was there for 7 years. He's back now in Holland. I think he said like he had, in the 7 years, he had one gig. The best paying gig he had was $100 in 7 years' time. And the big difference is, you know, that's the way it goes over there. He had lots of good gigs, but none of them paid any money, so it's really difficult to survive. And in Holland, you know, it's kind of relaxed because you can play in bars and you can play concerts, and if you stick around long enough, you develop an audience. And that's also the wonderful thing about jazz, is that if when you start off, your audience is very small, but if you hang in there and keep on making records, your audience builds. With pop music, they'll love you for 2 years, and then the audience will just move on to something else,
right?
Because then you're an old fart, moldy fig.
So Amsterdam has quite a strong jazz tradition, like New York, or
there's nothing like New York.
No,
there's
of course,
absolutely nothing like New York. We all know that, right?
No, of course. But I do see similarities, though. I mean, you know, the international character, the cosmopolitan character, people coming here, the freeness that they try to taste in their music and take into their composition. I mean, do you agree, Sinay?
Yeah, in that sense, yeah, it's very international, of course. And I think we have a slightly different mindset. I'm very careful saying anything about that. I mean, there's always, if there's a good side, there's also downside of it. You get to chill out a little bit more because you can get paid quite well for things that, you know, like... that's why also they are kicking their ass off practicing and stuff in New York to be able to play in better venues and then try to be able to go on tour in Europe, so on. So yeah, there is a little similarity, but I think it's also quite different.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I just want to go back for a sec to like, you know, the compositions of music. I always thought, like, you know, relating music or jazz music to, you know, this analogy of life and creating your own identity and looking for your own identity. Benjamin, you told me, you mentioned when we had this little pre-conversation on Zoom, you had this quote about on Mengelberg. It's about the result. Het gaat om het klinkend resultaat.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? What do you mean?
Well, that's something which I remember Misha saying. One of his sayings, he had a lot of very wise words. He was a funny guy, very nice guy to hang with, and peculiar. But he would say, you know, people would get into all kinds of quarrels on stage or ego stuff or anything, you know, and him and Han would, as Han said it, you know, they would play with incredible assholes. Some people they played with were horrible.
Yeah.
And Misha was just like, well, his conclusion was the only thing that counts is the music. So if the music is good, that's what it's about, and that's what Han also says. You know, it's not, you know, if you're on tour and you have difficulties dealing with people, which happens sometimes. If you get good music out of it, that's worth the effort.
Right. So it's about the music language. I mean, was that the thing that was maybe the basis of, you know, coming to a new country for you, Sunmi, not knowing the language, not knowing anything, but music was your language?
Yeah, I believe so, and I believed so. So, yeah, it's something that I was comfortable and confident about was playing drums when I came here. So, of course, that was the only way to communicate with the colleagues and teachers and audience, of course. So I still think talking is very difficult. Socializing is very difficult. But playing drums is really fun. And playing music is really fun. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we have 5 minutes left. All right.
Okay.
So, you know, these things go really fast. If I were to just sit in your car, Benjamin, what would I listen to right now?
I don't have a driver's license.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I would come and drink a cup of coffee at your house.
Well, I'd listen to all kinds of music. I have a podcast here. I don't think you can listen to it abroad, but I go from Jamaican music to free jazz to stock music, you know, the KPM 1000 library with British stuff in there. I love Fausto Papetti, you know. I love all kinds of music. Monk said that as well. I love all kinds of music. Someone asked him, do you like country and western? And he didn't answer. He said, I like all kinds of music. And then the guy said, yeah, but do you like country and western? And he said, is the guy deaf or something? Yeah, I agree with that answer, you know.
Yeah,
I like all kinds of music. Listen to all kinds of music. But one of the records which really brought tears to my eyes, my wife was under the shower and we have a sound system in the bathroom, and I put on Pharoah Sanders' new album.
With floating points and the London Symphony Orchestra.
Bloody hell. If I'm thinking about it, I'm getting goosebumps again. That is so incredible. And I've seen Pharoah Sanders play a couple of times, and every time I'm like, just tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
And with this album, that's incredible. He's 80 now, I think.
Yeah.
It's incredible album. Well recommended. Listen to that album.
Sunmi, how about you? If I were to sit in your car or come for a cup of coffee. Okay. What is that? Jazz musicians don't have driver's license, which is a good thing. It's green. Yeah, it's true. What are you listening to nowadays?
I'm not copying, but I also try to listen to all kinds of music. I'm the person who gets into one kind of music or one album that I don't try to listen anything else, and then I want to change my behavior, my way of listening. So these days, most of the time I get suggestion from people, so I can get new music. You know, so I would like to ask you, if you are about to have a coffee with me, what are you listening?
Mike's got a good taste as well. He knows loads
Yeah, I
of
know.
stuff. He knows. He's
Guys, I'm
into modern
interviewing
music.
today. I'm interviewing today. I'm not, you know. All right. So I'm going to close with a question I asked Fuensanta and Rafael, who's going to play with SMANDEM in just a few minutes. You know, jazz or Black American music, or I tend to call it Black American music. You know, jazz is a kind of complicated term. Is it the soup or one of your ingredients? And this is not my quote. This is Fuensanta's quote.
Is it the soup
The jazz.
or one of
Yeah. Is jazz your soup or is it one of your ingredients?
Well, it's very simple for me. I play saxophone, and thanks to Charlie Parker, I can know my way around the horn because that was the only thing I was practicing for years and years.
Yeah.
Jazz is what it is, that's what comes out of this saxophone, whether it's distorted or weird or straight ahead. I mean, that's what it's influenced by all kind of stuff, but I'm a jazz musician.
It's your soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Sinay?
I was thinking whole time when you were answering. It's really hard. I would say probably it's my cutleries.
Ah, right.
Smart
It's
answer.
it's the way to express myself.
Mhm.
So it's not soup which is ready, or it's not ingredients which is gonna be ready, individuals. It's just the way to express.
Wow. I think that's a great way to end. Bouwman, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mike.
for your
Thank you.
set. Thank you for your music and your talk. Sunmi, thank you for your music and talk. Guys, SMANDEM up next. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for watching. We have got SMANDEM. We have David van der Grinten on keys, Aäron Bouwman on bass, Kik Woudstra on drums, Rafael Sinay on guitar. And we're thankful to be here in the beautiful Bimhuis with you guys. And yeah, we're gonna play some tunes for you and we hope you all enjoy. See? So, again, Kik Woudstra on drums, Rafael Sinay on guitar, Aäron Bouwman on bass, van de Grinten on keys. And yeah, you've been listening to some tunes that we wrote, and they are on our first EP, and we're super proud to perform them for you guys. It's super fun. This next tune that we're gonna play is a version of Afrocentric. This is from a big hero of us, Joe Henderson. Hope you enjoy.
a importar el arte si viste una misma cosa con mil caras, predicando que se puede escoger la forma en que existimos en el mundo. Mi vida no fue lo que hice, fue como lo sentí. Mi vida no fue lo que tuve. Y entre tantas perspectivas, la persona se hizo libre. Aprendí a ensamblar la propia. Fue en sí misma empoderada. Y al paso de las circunstancias vivió como decidió, usando los ojos artistas. ¿Cómo no va a importar el arte si viste una misma cosa con mil caras, predicando que se puede escoger la forma en que existimos en el mundo? Mi vida no fue lo que hice.